booties for black girl nerds.
Mr. Lindo, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. I really
Sure,
appreciate it.
sure. No problem, Jamie. No problem.
I am honored and pleased to speak with you because this film has been revolutionary for me and revolutionary and groundbreaking for so many fans of this film. And Sinners, to me, I think, has not only been one of the most thought provoking films of this year, but really of this decade, arguably. When you first read the script, did you know you were stepping into something special?
I know I was stepping into something particular. Um, the response to the film has made it special. The script I knew was very particular and very large in its themes, and um, I wasn't sure what the response would be. I was hoping that audiences, whomever would be coming to this material, would not be expecting Black Panther 3. And because I knew that Ryan was traversing the areas between genre, as in, horror or vampire, but I also was very clear that he was telling a much larger story. And I was hoping that audiences would plug into the larger themes, and that has proven to be the case.
And I'm so happy for Ryan that he's been able to accomplish this work because prior to that, we've known him for the Black Panther films. We've known him for these intellectual properties that he's
Yeah,
been a part of these franchises with the Creed films. And now he has
yeah,
this beautiful original artistry with Sinners. And it's inspired a lot of people to want to not only watch original films, but even create original films as well, with what he's done with this beautiful piece of work. Many critics have highlighted your ability to communicate so much through silence in this film. How did you approach the internal life of this character, especially in scenes where words weren't really doing the heavy lifting?
So first of all, thank you. I actually was not aware that critics have been identifying that. Um, so I would say to you, Jamie, that it was not something, the silence and being articulate in the silence was not something that I focused on specifically. But what I will say is that what I did focus on was in presenting as multi-layered a human being as I could. And given that the subtext of my life, Delta Slim,
Mm.
was so critical to who the audience would be seeing in the present, I tried to fill in as much biographical information and have that be present even when I was not speaking. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I love that subtext and for that to be in how that informed your performance. So thank you for sharing that. Awards voters often respond to transformation. What part of this role required the deepest transformation for you, whether it's emotionally, physiologically, or even technically?
Technically, there was the aspect of playing the harp and playing the piano. And in the work that I did with the harp, harmonica, and the piano, I was really aware, not so much with the harp, but absolutely with the piano, that one is communicating. I was having to communicate and engage with a completely different side of my brain. That was, I was really aware of that. And I was aware when I was successfully engaging, and I was also aware when there was more work to be done. But it was a very different part of my brain that was being engaged and being required to engage the keyboard.
I love that. Were you inspired by any artists or did you do any research with musically as you were
Yes,
preparing for that?
yes, I did. Um, excuse me.
Hmm.
Ryan had sent me two books, Deep Blues by a man named Robert Palmer and Blues People by Amiri Baraka. When Amiri Baraka wrote the book, he was known as Leroy Jones. I read those books. I then, and that gave me a solid intro into the world of blues musicians, into the world of the practitioners of this incredible art form. Then I just immersed myself in so many of the artists, Sunhouse, Muddy Waters, um, Ike Turner, Howlin' Wolf, to name but a few. But I listened to so much music on an ongoing basis in order to, yes, get a feel for the music and the musicians. But for instance, in listening to a lot of YouTube interviews with these cats, and one gets a sense of their lives and their lifestyles and their um, not their physiology, not their physiology, but I don't know how they are as human beings, how they carry themselves through the world. And I was
Mm.
hoping, um, with exposing myself to all of that, data, and then putting that in the hopper with what I was, with my own process, creating Delta Slim, that there would be a particular human being in Delta Slim that audiences would see.
I love how that's so baked in. This marks your first collaboration with Ryan Coogler. What about his directing style pushed you into new territory as an actor?
Um, I was not aware of being pushed into new territory, but what I will say is he is incredibly collaborative and open.
Mm.
And when you have a director, a human being who's that collaborative and that open, when you have as your source material such dynamic, brilliant material, that it makes the working process, all the lines of communication are open, and hopefully, knock on wood, that leads to, the word that came to me, the word that came to me was that leads to revelatory work. Now, let me just be clear. When I say revelatory, um, it's not like I'm in the work communicating to myself, oh my God, this is revelatory. It's not that, but it is that uh, the workers, all of us, are working in the same direction, and there's a richness that is connected to that. And then I have to say that the audiences coming to the work then become part of that process, and seeing how the audiences have responded, that has made the whole experience revelatory.
You're a seasoned actor. You've been in this business for quite some time. And Ryan, he's still building himself as a filmmaker. Did you mentor him or coach him through any of the process when you were doing this film with him?
No, that he doesn't he doesn't need that kind of coach. As far as I'm concerned, he doesn't need
Mm.
that kind of coaching, or that kind of mentoring. Now, You would have to ask Ryan, what he gleaned from working with me. And I'm not suggesting that you do that from an ego-driven point of view, but it's 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 virtually impossible for me to answer the question you've asked. Um, but you might get more of an insight into that question if you ask Ryan.
Mm.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What conversations did you and Ryan have about tone, restraint, or justice? The core themes that critics say elevate sinners, from drama to prestige filmmaking.
I would say that Ryan told me a lot about himself as a human being, just who he is, where he comes from, how he moves through the world. Excuse me. That told me a lot. That was part of our foundation for working together, as a matter of fact. Ryan is a former athlete, played football. My son is an athlete. My son's playing professional basketball. So we talked about that. Um, um, we talked about the work that we have both done. And I think in discussing all of those things, we were de facto forging a relationship that we then took into the work. So it wasn't mentoring, but it was a depth of sharing that informed how we uh, collaborated in this work. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've delivered many acclaimed performances throughout your career. Do you feel like this one represents a culmination of what you've learned as an artist?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. Hands down, no question. If one thinks about this journey, the journey of building a career, the journey of working and continuing to work, it then constitutes a continuum. And as far as the continuum of my journey is concerned, this um, this Delta Slim is a very pivotal component in that continuum and exists in its own sphere. Now, I have to say that this current trajectory that I'm on is very much connected to, indirectly, the Five Bloods and the work that I did in that film, which also occupies a very particular space in its own sphere. And in terms of spheres of achievement, there is a connection in terms of there's a connection between Paul in Five Bloods and Delta Slim in Sinners in terms of how I have applied myself creatively and how I have, as a result of that application, what work has come about as a result of that.
Both critically acclaimed performances, indeed. Your character Delta Slim sits at the moral center of the film. How do you
Mm,
balance portraying someone flawed but deeply empathetic in a story that's driven by ethical ambiguity?
beautiful, beautiful question. And the answer to your question is I didn't think about it at all.
Mm,
And I'm not being facetious.
mm.
I just worked on conveying the truth as I interpreted it of each moment of each scene. And what you just said is a beautiful thing in as much as, excuse me, in as much as this is what you as audience or maybe other audiences are gleaning or receiving from the work. And that's incredibly affirming. But for myself, I really just concentrated on playing the truth as fully as I could of each moment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lindo, for taking the time to speak to Black Girl Nerds. This is such a remarkable film. I don't know of any film that's had the experience where people have gone multiple times to
Right,
see a film like this.
right.
And all the best to you. Your name is being brought up in so many awards conversations. So thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate the conversation.
Thank you so
Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds. Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds.